We are back, instigating with Clarkey and Drury. We really appreciate everybody tuning in on Rogers TV across your local networks here, YouTube, all your favorite podcast apps. I'm Drury, that's Clarkey. Man, there's a lot to talk about.
Eh?
The week has taken quite a turn
yesterday.
In the Toronto sports scene.
Biggest signing of all time. We'll get into that later, you said.
We are going to dig into that for sure. Blue Jays making some noise. And we've got a great guest who's going to help us make some noise, okay?
I'm excited about this guy. Okay? So, I've been in the media industry, as you know, for way too many years, and this next guest has as well. We've never crossed paths. I don't remember ever meeting Mark, but anyway.
I am very shocked to hear that because, I mean, you seem to know everybody, Clarkey, but we're really excited to have this guy on our podcast. He is a longtime Canadian TV and radio personality, best known for a long time co-hosting on Sportsline on Global TV Network. His other work, I mean, he helped anchor Sports Central on CTV, play-by-play for the Argos. We love that. We love the Boatmen here. Maple Leaf Hockey on Global TV, Headline Sports, Square Off, multiple-time author, including a new book that we're very excited to talk about. And I'm pretty sure as well that this gentleman, like myself, is an esteemed member and alumni of the Conestoga College Condors, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So that's a big deal. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our friend and yours, Mark Hebscher. Mark, how are you, my friend?
Thank you for that lovely introduction. Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's great.
Yeah, am I correct there? You are a former Condor yourself?
I am a former Condor. I don't like to talk about it, but yeah. Yeah, I spent a lot of time in Western Ontario, or would that be Western Ontario or Midwestern?
Midwestern, I guess.
West Central Ontario.
Yeah.
And Conestoga College. Yeah, it was just one building when I was there. I mean, it had just opened. That's how long ago it was. But yeah, that's where I got my feet wet. That's where I studied radio and television arts. And that's where the bug started right there. It was like, I have to be in the media. I just have to.
Did you want to be in sports right off the top?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I wanted to do rock and roll. I wanted to be a rock and roll DJ first. And then I realized, not a lot of depth to that. And every rock and roll DJ I knew would be here for 2 years and somewhere else. And they would go this town, they come back, and they a lot of changing places. Television, I never thought about at all. My mom wanted me to be a sports writer, and I just loved covering sports and watching sports. Like, you can get paid for that. Like, Clark, you remember when you got your first media pass? You were like, they're paying me to watch the games? What a great deal. Shh, don't tell anyone.
I know. And my first pass, not to interrupt you, was to sit beside Joe Bowen and Bill Waters and engineer the games at Maple Leaf Gardens.
Right.
What better job was that?
And they would say your name on the air, right?
They would.
There's Joe Bowen along with Bill Waters and our engineer, Chris Clark.
Yeah, exactly.
Your folks would be like, yes,
exactly.
Boy, he made it.
Correct.
He made it on the air.
Yeah.
And so, just like any young man growing up loving sports, as you can imagine, it was like a dream come true. And I worked hard. I wouldn't say, physically hard, like someone who had a manual labor, but there's a lot of late nights and weekends and eating bad food and being on the road and keeping weird hours and, some stress when it came to things like the ratings. Not that much, but, especially nowadays, I think, a lot of people are looking over their shoulder in the media business. And I write about that in the book. It's not as stable as it once was, because it used to be, everybody you knew had been in the business for years and had a bright future, at least, or didn't seem to be on the chopping block. It just didn't work that way back in those days.
So let's get right into that. Why do you think that is?
Let's talk about the book. Yes.
Well, that's a lot there, but as far as media today versus, the reason I wrote the book was because I felt that I was part of the golden era of sports media. And by that, I meant that the coverage was extensive, but it was balanced, and you knew who the good sources were, and the good sources were obviously the people that had access to the players and the coaches and all of that information. Reporters, seasoned or young journalists, but people that knew how to do a story. And then as time went on, the teams sort of started taking over the narrative and saying, you know what, we've got our own PR department here. We're going to tell you who we think you should talk to. And unless the reporter really pushed back and said, no, we got to hear from so-and-so, then, the team would sort of start to take over that area of public relations and say, look, if you want to comply, you get all the access you want. In fact, I'll call you and I'll tip you off before your competitors. But if you're going to start to make noise and you're going to start to give us a hard time about they should trade this player or fire this coach, or you start writing negative or saying negative things about us, so we're going to put our foot down. And I detail a lot of those instances in the book where the podcaster was basically told, you are going to comply because you're a rights holder or something to that, or we're going to make your life miserable. Happens a lot.
Okay, I'm just going to. Could you work in that kind of environment?
No, but that's easier for me to say I'm retired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I know.
But if I had a young family, yeah, because what other options do I have? What, people think that if someone gets let go at Sportsnet, somebody really good, and there have been a lot of really good people, that immediately TSN would just go pick them up. There's you see it on social media. Oh, that's it. That person's good. And I could name tons of people. Arash Madani. I could mention, of course, off the top of my head, I can't think, but like people like Corey Warren, people who more recently, were told, sorry, that's it for you. And just people automatically think, oh, the other sports network will gobble them up. Don Cherry's another example of people who are saying, oh, why doesn't TSN get Don Cherry? So, it makes more difficult to enter the business and more difficult to keep your job. And if you want to keep your job, you're going to have to toe the company line. And because the company owns the team and the media that you work for and the building and the rights, and they basically own you. And so now the teams will tell you who they're going to bring out for you to interview. And that's pretty much the way it is.
Hence the reason why ratings are down, why these media companies don't seem to want to put any money into sports radio. It's just at times, I love Overdrive. I love the morning show on TSN. But besides that, I can't listen to anything else. I just can't do it.
Yeah, no, it's very different now. And, a lot of radio is built for podcasting purposes. We don't need to be too detailed as far as what time it is. Let's have this live. And if people miss it live, my stepson, man, he listens to Overdrive like the next day.
Yeah.
I'll say to him, it's on live in an hour. He's going, live? What's that? He doesn't listen to the radio in the car. He listens to it at his leisure every afternoon when he gets home from school. He listens to Overdrive from the day before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Figure it. But everyone's got their own style and pattern. So if you're putting programming together and someone says to you, look, this has got to go on several platforms. It's not just for radio. It's got to go on the net, and it's got to go digital because people need to be able to download it. And so now you're doing a different type of reporting, whereas before it was just, Chris, it's radio. Just get the sound right. Don't worry. There's no pictures to worry about. Joe doesn't have to tie his tie up or any of that stuff. No details in there. Don't worry about the spelling. There's no spelling. This is just radio. But if you're now a reporter and you're on the multi-platforms, the spelling has to be correct. The lead-in has to be written a certain way. It has to be presented in a certain format. All that stuff. And that's up to the one person who before would just open their mouth and speak.
Mm-hmm. Not to get too involved with what was going on with me, but I did interview a few years back for a job in sports radio as the program director, and I made it through a few rounds. Ryan knows this, and I thought
you did.
I thought I had the job. Someone told me, if it's up to me, you have the job, and I thought he was the guy hiring. Well, I finally got to the top guy, had an interview with him, and I know exactly where I lost the job because he asked me, "Will you think podcast or radio when you come to program this station?" And I said radio, because if you don't have good radio, I don't care what else you do or where else you put it, I don't think it'll be good. But I swear to this day, that's why I lost the job and I didn't get it. And then they hired a young guy who was a podcasting expert. You may know who I'm talking about, or you don't. But
a podcasting.
But anyway, it was
a wrong
like,
way to describe who was hired for that. But
he's
more of an expert in something else.
It just shows you how this world and how the media has changed. And then we listened to GR in Buffalo with my good buddy, who was my first boss, Alan Davis, running the show down there and running a radio station, a sports radio station.
Yeah, well, he had a very high standard. He had a very, very high standard. Very competitive. GR 55. Listen, when I was working down in Niagara Falls, I mean, you're talking about the biggest stars in radio when radio was king, and now it's a totally different story. Like I said, I think people. I'm just gonna an age thing. I think if you're under 30, you don't listen. You just don't. You never did. And you never will. So, you know, they didn't grow up. My kids grew up listening to CDs. They didn't listen to the radio. This is when you could listen to the music that you wanted to listen to and portably. And so that was never a thing for them. So they can't differentiate between what's radio and what's podcast. To them, it's all podcasts. It's all, it's a podcast. Okay. It's just on radio. You can listen to it live. It's a podcast that you can listen to live.
Yeah. And I know my habits. I get into the car at 5 o'clock. I turn on overdrive. If I like tonight was a perfect example. Tonight at 5 o'clock, they had on Luke Wilson. I didn't want to hear football talk. I wanted to hear the guys talking about the hockey game last night. So I went onto my YouTube Music app and I listened to the first hour, an hour late. And they were talking about the hockey game last night.
There you go.
That's just the way it is. But I don't think it takes a podcasting expert to be able to do that. That's all. But anyway, not that I'm bitter.
Well, no, and I think that like accessibility to stuff is great. It's just the way it's packaged is certainly very different. Mark, I'm glad you kind of brought up, talking about CDs, right? Because I wonder, I mean, the book is called The Rise and Ruin of Sports Media. And with something like CDs, which turned into downloading, we've read a lot over the last couple decades about the rise and ruin of the music industry. And they found, I think what most people would call a cheap backdoor way, as the music industry does, to bounce back from that. But now you're seeing the return and the rise of vinyl. Like vinyl sales are the highest they've been last year since 1983. And so when you look at something like that, I wonder, do you feel that there's a way that sports media in this country can bounce back in a similar fashion, and how?
Well, you could say that it's cyclical because 100 years ago, it was similar in that the reporters, and there was only newspapers then. Radio didn't start until the 20s. And even then, sports on radio didn't become super popular for another few years, maybe through the late 20s. So let's say 100 years ago, well, the newspapermen were kind of, in the back pocket of the owners of the teams because, we're going to give you not just access to the players, and you can ride the trains with them, and we'll feed you too, and we'll pay for your travel. Don't you worry, when we're taking the trains or whatever, you guys can travel with us. Just, if Babe Ruth gets drunk or chases women, don't write stuff like that. So there was an understanding, kind of the way there is today. So you can say that sports media today is somewhat like it was back when it was just newspapers. There was a nice, comfortable relationship between the writers and the baseball owners and the managers and players. You write something nice about me, great. You write something snotty about me or something I don't like, I'll see you on the train, I'll punch your lights out. And now it's more, instead of I'll punch your lights out, it's, you start up and we'll call your boss, you'll be off this beat in 2 seconds because we own the company that broadcasts the games that you work for. So,
which is so wrong.
It's so wrong, but who's going to stand up? What independent journalists are going to stand up and say, we're not going to stand for this? You've got
nobody.
You've got Post Media, the Toronto Sun and National Post. They have no affiliation whatsoever. However, the Maple Leafs can say, or the Raptors or the Blue Jays can say, you know what? Limited access. And I'll give you a best example is last year during spring training, how many outlets do you think were there? TV outlets were there, or any outlet were there at spring training for the most part on a daily basis?
One. Sports.
That's it. There was one. That was it. There was one. The other stations, everybody else, TSN said, well,
I know.
We're not going to have a baseball reporter anymore. We'll have Steve Phillips on every so often. And that's it. So if you see it, if you see the writing on the wall, can you imagine honestly that one day you're going to turn on TSN and they're going to all of a sudden be talking baseball? No. Not unless they get the rights. And they're not going to get the rights from Rogers, obviously, and they've already sold, a good chunk of what they own from MLSE. It's a whole, it's all corporations and conglomerates, and that's what it's kind of come down to. And they make the decisions, and it's about the bottom line and quality. It's not so much, they're not as concerned about quality of journalism because they don't think that sells. You can't sell that to the board of directors and the stockholders. You can't say, listen, it's good investigative journalism. We'll turn junior hockey in Canada on its rear end, and will cost millions, maybe billions of dollars in, good faith money that would have gone towards Hockey Canada, because we'll just uncover all this stuff. You think people want to do that? I don't think anybody wants to do that. But as journalists, isn't that sort of someone's job?
I think it was supposed to be, and I think it still should be, and there are examples of it, but you're right, Mark, they are rare. A few weeks ago, it kind of relates to the topic that you're covering at large in the book. A couple weeks ago, Toronto Maple Leafs general manager Brad Treliving described his team as too vanilla. Do you think that would be an accurate description of what our media landscape, specifically when we're talking about sports, is like in this country?
In this country, look, I don't know the Vancouver market well enough, but I do know there are some personalities there that can ruffle some feathers. Yep. But they don't work for the station that has the rights, right? Necessarily. Like Luke Wilson can go. Like Luke Wilson's an exception because he can go on and on about the CFL, which is TSN's league. I mean, that's their anchor right there. So that to me takes, obviously his bosses, they haven't fired him, nor should they, because he's speaking the truth. But he has more of an opinion on the CFL than other broadcasters do about the sport they cover. Somewhat because of the team, they have a relationship with the team that might be a little more, closer than other relationships. And also the fact that in the structure that we have today, ultimately if someone gets upset and they can get you fired or get you moved or your contract not renegotiated or something, that happens a lot. And there's a lot of that has to do with diversity as well. You've got brand new sports leagues for women that have just, exploded. The National Women's Soccer League just had their championship. They drew over 1 million people on television. That's remarkable. The WNBA is coming to Toronto. Sorry, I'm from Toronto. That's a huge league. And you've got Canadian Pro soccer, women's. You've also got, of course, the PWHL, which is rebranded, but now seems more solid. It's got teams in Vancouver and Seattle. So it's got that West Coast rivalry, and they're going to expand. And there's a big demand for this. And so more and more women are getting into broadcasting or interested in broadcasting or sports media because of all this availability. These are sports that they grew up playing and watching, just like boys did with the hockey and basketball and football. And there's opportunities and there's scholarships available, because in the United States, you've got to offer the same number of scholarships to women as you do men. That's Title IX. So there's tons of sports where it's opened up over the years. And now these sports are being broadcast. And who's doing the broadcasting? The females, the ones that grew up wishing that they were Cassie Campbell Pascal, analyzing NHL hockey. Well, this is women's pro hockey. This is a big stuff, and it's on television, and it's perfect for the media. So there's all these opportunities now. Digital. I mean, if you said to me, is the game on TV? I said, no, but you can get it on YouTube, or you can, no problem. It doesn't matter to me if it's on conventional television. If I can get it, I can get it. How do you think I watch my stepson's hockey games from Thunder Bay or Cam River or Elliott Lake? Because they're all broadcast in some way, shape, or form. So we're used to this. We're just used to seeing it. We want as much information as possible. We want to be on the inside. But if that message is being controlled by the ownership to say, look, no questions about our finances, or we don't want to hear nonsense, or you think that this player should be traded or this coach should be fired, we don't need that. We've got our own in-house people that work for TorontoMapleLeafs.com or the NHL.com. They're not journalists, they were journalists, or they might in some other life be a journalist, but when they're working that job, they're public relations. They want stuff about the league and stuff about the team to be positive. There are no ruffling any feathers. And that's why when you hear these press conferences, the first question is usually always by someone who works for the team or the league, right? Mm-hmm. It's not the reporter going, hey, what happened in the ninth inning? inning there. It's explain what happened, if you don't mind. Could you let's go through the ninth inning. It's a little more, because it's sort of a staged press conference. It's the dog and pony show. We're going to bring out these two players. We're not going to bring that player out because he screwed up. We're not bringing Isaiah Kiner-Falefa out here to say, you didn't get the right lead. No chance. So access is a big thing, and the teams will tell you who gets access and who doesn't get access.
I asked you earlier if you would like working in that kind of environment, and I kind of knew what your answer was. And then I think back, and it gives me anxiety to think when I produced Bob McCowan for 8 years, and just if I had to go through that with Bob, it would have been even worse than it was at times working with him. But anyway, with all due respect, I had a lot of fun with working with Bob. But I wanted to ask you about Bob, because obviously you took over Sportsline from Bob McCowan. Is he a guy you looked up to?
I loved Bob. Honest to God, still do. I mean, he's, I don't want to say he became a recluse or whatever, but he had certain issues and all that. The thing with me was I loved him, and he got me started really in sports and in radio, taught me a lot. But circumstances just happened whereby if Bob was in hot water with his current bosses, on 2 occasions, the bosses said, can we get anybody that's as good as Bob? And the answer was no, but Mark Hebscher's pretty good, and he's learned from Bob, and he's kind of a lot of what Bob has, and he's cheaper than Bob, right? And so that's what happened with the first iteration of his radio show, Talking of Sports. Yeah, because I was his producer, and I go through this in the book. I was his producer, but I wanted to be a sportscaster, and and I wanted to branch out. I was pretty young, my early 20s, and so. It's not that Bob didn't forgive me. I think he felt that, maybe I was disloyal to him or whatever, but I think he understood after a while. He did, in fact. But, it's sort of like, you're a big brother to someone, and then they go away, and someone else becomes their big brother, I guess. So, and then we had gotten back together. And then when he wanted a new contract at Global on Sportsline, I think they said the same kind of thing happened. And they said, we can't afford to pay for Bob or whatever, but there's this Mark Hebscher he's on the radio, and he's pretty good, and he knows Jim Taddy, and we could put the two of them together. That might have been what happened when they couldn't come to terms with Bob. But I'm telling you, and Bob, and this, was smarter than anybody I know about every sport. And I'm not talking about a specialized person, which nowadays is the thing. When you think of a certain broadcaster, you think Chris Cuthbert, you think hockey, you don't think football. He's a great football announcer too. And he did soccer, and he was really good, like really good. So, there's specialized guys. I understand that. But in our day, and in Bob's day, he had to know everything, man. This guy knew tennis, golf, horse racing, auto racing. He could get by with a lot of these sports, hockey, of course, football, college football, Canadian college football. Okay. He knew all of it. Basketball, college basketball, high school basketball. Bob knew all this, okay? And I did as well, and I learned a lot that you have to be really diverse. You have to be able to speak about a lot of different sports, Olympic sports, curling. He knew stuff I had no idea. I said, wow, you knew that? And he goes, yeah. So that's the type of, before the internet. So that's the type of knowledge that he had. So when you have that kind of knowledge, you can speak with authority about several different topics. You're a know-it-all. And someone goes and challenges you in the sports world and says, well, I think that was a bad trade or whatever. You're ready with, hold on a second. I remember this happened, or I've got that. Nowadays, people can just draw up the stats and say, that Dylan Cease's ERA against American League East teams was blah. But there's no context to it, right? There's the history of it. Like that was all in one game or whatever. And see, Bob had that, and he would explain that to me as well. He says, you can't just throw a stat. The stat has to be context, right? For example, Brooks Robinson won 23 Gold Gloves playing third base for the Baltimore Orioles. Who did he replace at third base? Right? So there's sort of a context there. Like, okay, he's got the record, but who was the guy that he took over from? Sort of the Wally Pipp thing with Lou Gehrig. And these are the little nuggets that would fill in the story and make it more than just about stats, the colorful little anecdotes and the nuggets, and this was his nickname, and that makes for good storytelling, which is really what sports is all about. If you weren't at the game, I want to hear you tell me a story. All right, read it to me, write it to me, tell it to me live, but tell me the story. And I think that's what's missing. A lot of that is missing, the really good storytelling.
You've tweaked a lot of memories in my mind when you said Talking of Sports, a show that I listened to. And then when did you produce that show with Bob?
1978.
Oh my gosh.
1978.
Okay.
And 1979. Yeah.
Okay. Because
that's when I was first on the radio in Toronto.
I then produced it in 88, I think it was.
Yeah. No, this was
that led to, I guess, Primetime Sports becoming Primetime Sports. But one of the things I remember about that show in primetime when we took calls is all the characters that we had. Montreal Jack and the Stats Lady and Alan in a Cab. And they were just...
It was mine.
Right? Like they were just people. And they became stars through the radio. Like it was a fun time. And you never hear anything like that nowadays.
Yeah, I don't know who it was that said, I don't want to hear from Vito in Woodbridge, or I don't want to hear from Bill in Scarborough because they're just fans. And I always thought, no, this is what you do want to hear. This is what you want to hear because you're going to agree or disagree. You're going to go, that guy's an idiot.
The radio station's called The Fan.
Right. And so whoever, listen, didn't McCowan used to have an hour of just open phones? Okay.
4 to 5 every day.
4 to 5. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough, especially. But the thing is that you're right. The recurring characters, which have worked on every other successful show. Howard Stern has had the same recurring characters for like 50, 40, whatever it is, years. That's build those characters, right? And Bob had them all like years in the 70s. He had these characters, like Orest and Claude DeMalfachuk. The DeMalfachuk brothers from Dothan, Alabama. They owned a bakery. He would come up with these like names and whatever. And, oh my God, it was hysterical. And the other thing too is Bob had a fantastic sense of humor, but as time went on, I think people expected him to be more, I don't know, not abrasive maybe, but as opposed to, he's funny. You make me laugh out loud. He would, sensational. So guys like that, they don't exist anymore. Right. But at the time there was an independence that he had that I don't think any other broadcaster could have now, where he worked for the station that had the rights to the Blue Jays and the Maple Leafs, and he could kick the crap out of them anytime he wanted to, justifiably. And sponsors would pay good money to be part of that. Let's do it in the morning, Bob. We can make more money. You're a morning guy. I'm not a morning guy. Let's go to Vegas. We can still make money. Yeah. Let's do
I lived through all that.
Whatever. Let's bring Let's bring Jim Hunt in. You can go to Vegas. He'll do it from Toronto. Let's do all this stuff. Round table. Let's have you like. And, he had a fantastic run, and he should still be, part of the landscape. But that's the way every business is now.
Yeah. Sure. It's strange. And, you brought up, interestingly, and I think rightly so, the advent of the explosion in popularity, certainly from accessibility standpoints of women's sports. And I mean, the PWHL in particular, we're friend of the show. We're going to have her on soon. Julia Teixeira, who hosts their flagship podcast with Tessa Bonhomme, Jocks and Jills. Excited to get her back on the show at some point. And I think that they have a unique opportunity, kind of like you said, Mark, to go the other direction and have that more old school mentality where there's entertainment and good storytelling. They have players on the show. They share lots of like fun, crazy stories. Those two ladies say whatever they want. I mean, Tessa Bonhomme, she's as straight, good Northern lass. She's going to tell it like it is. And she does on the show. And on the broadcasts, like she'll be very critical. I think that they are positioned in a unique way to actually go the other direction and potentially revive some of that stuff that we loved about sports media and bring it back for people in a new generation, Mark.
Well, that's the challenge is if you're programming these stations, what's your target audience, right? And what's the best way to get to them? And do they want that stuff? Do they want, give me your 5 top bands, or who would your top 10 favorite players growing up, or something like that? Lighthearted stuff that's that people digest in bite-sized portions, like you would if you were scrolling on TikTok or on Instagram or whatever your favorite social media is. Because let's face it, that's going to give them the most pump. When you show a goal like that icicle kick goal in the Canadian professional game that went around the world, went completely viral. That's all you need, to boost, a sport like that. So you're going to be showing stuff like that, and you're going to take on that, maybe that role as someone who's leading in the digital world and getting to the real audience that you want buying merch, that you want growing up with the league, feeling as they're part of that league. And that's that's not an easy strategy, right? To maintain and make money, you got to have sponsors. I mean, it's a whole thing. So are these leagues on solid financial ground? It looks like they are. And it is. The reason they are is because all their games can be seen. You can find them. You can watch them. It might cost you some money, whatever it is, but there's access. And we didn't have that growing up. Every game wasn't on television. And now it's demanded. And so if you're running a brand new league and you've got a good base and you've got good solid franchises, man, you want to pump that league as much as you can. And if the girls want to do, can dances in their pajamas while they're promoting Teddy Bear Night that's coming up Friday night, yeah, beautiful. If you're going to be doing a bake sale and you want to, show off your baked goods, terrific. You're going to take pictures. You're going to send it out there. Come on along. Come meet us in person. And that connection is going to, that base is going to make this league even better because all the games are on TV. And you might see yourself on TV at one of the games or up on the big screen if you go to one of the games. Because now when you go to games, it's an immersive experience that you can share with all your friends instantly on social media. Look at me, I'm at the game. It doesn't have to be, I need to read a reporter or some other person tell me what went on. I was there, and I'm going to tell you and all my other friends, here's me and John Tavares, click. Hey, here's my seats, click. Here's the food I was eating, click. Look at this new sandwich, click. Look what I was wearing, click. And that is the news that your friends, that people want to see. That's what they want from the game, not so much what somebody wrote about that was sitting in a press box.
Mm-hmm. And how you doing for time? Are you okay for time? I know I told you about 30 minutes. Are you okay?
Good. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
I do want to ask you on that note too, Mark, obviously, the connectivity with the brand. And, I went to a Toronto Scepters game last year, and I got to tell you, like, I haven't been to a Leaf game in a while, Clarkey. The bang for buck on offer at that game, I couldn't believe it. Like, I left with my jaw on the floor. It was unbelievable. It was packed. They had people standing. They have that Canadian deck, Enrico Coliseum.
Are you telling me it was better than when I went to Game 6 or Game 5 between the Panthers and the Leafs last year and saw them lose 6-1?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was, and I'll tell you why.
You probably didn't spend as much as me either.
Well, not because of the result of the game, Clarkey. I mean, the Scepters won. It was amazing. The atmosphere that you got for that $1. The beer wasn't $25 for a tall boy. The merchandise, well priced. Lines, constant lines, all times of the game. You can take a bathroom break and go out. There's still a lineup to get merch because it was so well priced. And after the game, like the team, they always have, girls minor teams come and like they give them free tickets for their team. You can apply. It's basically a lottery. And after every home game, I was blown away. The team comes out and signs autographs for them. And I was like, do they do this every game? Like Blair Turnbull and Sarah Nurse and them. Sarah's, out in Vancouver now, but sitting there. And one of the team staff was like, yep, every game they come and they talk to the girls that they invite. And I was like, you would never catch the Leafs doing stuff like that. They do some events here and there, but like I guess my point here, Mark, is do you think some of these bigger teams, especially what we see here in Canada with the conglomeration and the media stuffing of a giant sandwich where we own everything, do they take themselves a little too seriously? Because I feel like fans of the Leafs, Jays, right? I feel like they haven't been less connected to their teams almost ever from a fan perspective.
Well, that's very interesting. I think, there is a line there. You have to have special people to be aware of the fans' experience and to want to change that as quickly as you can if it's been bad and address the situations. And look, winning certainly helps a lot. I mean, that's the common denominator. You could be playing in a stinkhole of a place where seats are bad or whatever. I never heard anyone complain when they were winning World Series in 92, 93, that if you sat in a certain place in Skydome, you had to crane your neck just to see home plate. But, but of course, as time goes on and our experience at the game, because of what we're paying for tickets, becomes different. And now you're looking at different things. And I agree. I was at a Vegas Golden Knights game a couple of weeks ago, and I could not believe the atmosphere there. It was phenomenal. It was nonstop, on your feet. Is that me on the screen? Like constantly, you're looking for yourself on the screen. It was a show. It was just a whole show. And they lost the game in overtime. And you know what? People at the end of the game, they weren't like grumbling. They were upset that they had lost the game in overtime. But they were like, okay, let's go out and have a drink, or let's go walk around Vegas. And I would say, seriously, close to 90%, I would say, had Vegas paraphernalia on. And you don't see that same level. And because it's not about the hockey, they don't have this long tradition of hockey and failure. And let's talk about it on the talk shows. It's sort of a night out, like, oh, let's go see a hockey game. Who are they playing? I don't know, the New York Islanders. We don't know their players, but let's have fun, enjoy ourselves. And while we're at it, we'll see some of the visiting team fans wearing their colors, and maybe we'll engage them. And that's the thing, is people, nobody lives in Vegas. Like, they all moved there from somewhere. But when you see Islander fans wearing their Brian Trottier jerseys and their Mike Bossy jerseys, and they're parading around Las Vegas, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's like, well, it was cool. So it was a really cool vibe. And it was just something that I think that's how you sell. You sell the sizzle, and you hope that the team plays well enough that people keep coming back and they bring their kids, or they can afford to anyway.
Yeah, it's a very different landscape for sure. Well, Mark, you know what? We really appreciate you doing this. And again, make sure you go out and purchase the book.
Where do we find it, Mark? Where do we find the book? Everywhere?
Oh, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's like, and the audio book is out as well. So it's on Spotify, and it's on all the, what can I tell you? It's ask me where it isn't. Okay. It's not in Russia.
I heard it's even on planes. If you sit beside Mark Hebscher on a plane, he'll sell you one.
I could sell them out of the trunk of the car. No, they're chapters Indigo. Perfect. Online, of course, Amazon, and just punch my name in, or punch in the name of the title, and it's a great Christmas gift. But also, too, if you ever watched sports on TV, or listened to sports on the radio, or read about sports in newspapers or magazines, and or grew up anywhere in Southern Ontario or anywhere near a professional team, like this, you'll love this book, because it's right up your alley. It's like, oh yeah, oh.
Did you narrate the audio?
You bet I did.
Okay, good.
I did. And I had no problems pronouncing any of the names.
Absolutely. It was all, I heard it was all done in one take, Mark.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Producer's dream. And Adnan forwarded it. Adnan was on this show last week.
Adnan was on last week.
He's a good man, Adnan.
Isn't he?
Good man.
Yeah, one of the absolute best. Absolutely.
Yeah. And there's a guy who knows his stuff. I mean, like, again, not just one sport. He knows everything, right? Mm-hmm. That's old school in that, a lot of, like I say, a lot of very popular guys are, known for knowing just pretty much about one sport. And I love being able to have a conversation about any sport at any time. That's why I'm great in the bars. Someone will say, hey, what about the Davis Cup? And I can speak to that. I can speak to my problems with the Davis Cup, and like, when is it again? How often? What zone are we in? And all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I love covering sports, and I'm so happy that you guys had me on and allowed me to plug the book. I miss
hearing you. I got to tell you, I miss hearing you.
Thanks.
Big fan for years, and again, never crossed paths with you, but really enjoyed your work, and I do miss hearing you.
Well, thanks, Clarkey. I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. And, I hope I left some kind of a, I don't want to say legacy, but some kind of a, hey, he did good for the business, he was good for the business, right? It was good. He advanced the business maybe, or made it more interesting to follow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I certainly think you did. You certainly set a tone for people like me to follow, Mark. I think that's very safe to say. And I would encourage anybody that caught you on the radio waves, the TV waves, to go out and get the book, Madness, The Rise and Ruin of Sports Media, by our friend Mark Hebscher. We look forward to having you back on sometime, man. Thanks so much for doing this, eh?
Thank you, Drury. Thank you, Clarkey. Love you guys. That's great.
Appreciate Absolutely, brother. Thank you for doing this. There he is, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Hebscher, Canadian broadcasting legend. I don't think it's a stretch to say that. I mean, like I said, that guy, we're not, we're buttering him up here. He's a guest on the show. He's now a confirmed friend of the show, but it's true though. The amount of stuff that he did, the amount of programs that he was a part of, it's just incredible. Two-time author, by the way. Please, I'd encourage you to check this out too. The first book that he wrote, The Greatest Athlete You've Never Heard Of, Canada's first Olympic gold medalist, which is, of course, the story of George Orton, who won Canada's first ever medal at the Summer Olympics in 1900. Well, that's why the book's called what it's called. So I'd encourage you to check that out as well, especially if you pick up Madness and you enjoy it. Go and pick that up as well.
I will be listening to it.
So
no doubt I will be listening. I'll listen to it. I'll download the audiobook and I'll listen
struggling
to it.
with the reading part of reading.
I don't like, I'd much rather listen to the audiobook. That's all. That's why they do them, Drury. Because some people like to read, some people like to listen. That's all.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, you know how much of a Lionel Richie fan I am. Lionel just came out with a book, and
I've heard
it's not narrated by Lionel, and it's driving me crazy.
Really?
I know. And it's
the audiobook's not done by him.
Some no-name guy reading and saying I, and it's like, I'm not into it. You gotta narrate your own book. But
see, that's odd to me. Like this, Clarkey. Like I'm standing next to my bookshelf. I'm looking at loads of books about everything. I'm a big reader. I'm halfway through another book now. I just finished 2. And when I read, I am hearing it, especially if it's an autobiography or a story that someone wrote about. So I'm reading it in that author's. I'm hearing their voice as I read. So it would be jarring to throw Lionel on and be like, "Hello,
not him.
Not who I'm looking for."
Oh, good. Exactly.
That's not who I'm looking for.
Truly, it's
like, weird stuff. Weird stuff for sure.
Truly. It's just not.
Who was being sought after? You know who someone was looking for?
Some guy named Cease.
My God, Cease and Desist is coming to Toronto. Clarkey, let me tell you a quick story here. You know this. I'm covering the morning shift at CKNX Radio this week, the news shift. So I'm up at the crack of stupid, brother. I'm up at 4.
Yep.
And I'm catching a quick power nap in the afternoon, 4 to 12. I shut the mill. I take a couple hours and I just grind out a power nap and I wake up. Well, I did that last night and I roll over as my phone alarm goes off and I pick my phone up and I've got loads of messages and I'm like, oh, geez, like I usually don't have this many from loads of people that I haven't talked to in a little while since the World Series. And I look and I'm seeing pictures of Dylan Cease and can you believe this, Drury? And I'm going, no way. And then I check my email and The Athletic, they got a story up. Jays land Cease. I'm like, am I being catfished? Like, this can't be real. It is real. It's unbelievable. Biggest free agent signing in team history, eclipsing the 6-year, $150 million deal that George Springer signed. And it's just incredible. 7 years, $210 million. It's going to be $30 million a year. Some people are calling it an overpay. I think that's an outrageous take. This guy is an unbelievable arm. He's one of only 4 active pitchers in Major League Baseball to have 4 consecutive 200-plus strikeout seasons, which is absolutely insane. One of those guys pitched in the World Series for them this year in Max Scherzer. It's extremely rare. Garrett Crochet, and I'm trying to rack my brain off the top of my head who the other one is. The fact of the matter is, like, this guy is a lawnmower, Clarkey. I don't know how much you know about Dylan, and obviously
strikes out a lot of guys, I was told.
Dude, this guy's a lawnmower. I'm telling you right now. And that's why they call him Cease and Desist down there in San Diego. Got his start, obviously, with that White Sox team when the White Sox, believe it or not, just a little bit ago, they were good. And then ends up in San Diego, free agent, and he lands in Toronto. Man, I know that the sting of losing the World Series will probably never go away, especially the fashion in which it was lost. However, to turn around, I said, when we had our good buddy on here, Rob Longley of the Toronto Sun, longtime Jays beat reporter, that episode where we broke it down, which, by the way, has thousands of views on YouTube. We really pissed off some Dodgers fans, man. Like,
I see that.
It's our most watched episode ever. Like, people were watched the whole episode too. Like, people were not happy with some of the takes we had, but that's great. We love it. We appreciate new viewers. We appreciate you watching. I said to Rob Longley, you'll remember, and we talked about it in our post breakdown, the Jays could not sit and just go, well, good run. We gave it a good try and internal improvement and it worked out, and not go out and be aggressive. This is about as aggressive as it gets.
Well, you said double down. So they got to get one more guy though.
They got to get one more guy, and
double down.
And now,
and I'm sure they will. Right now,
now that Dylan Cease signs, like, is Kyle Tucker or Bo
Or both.
Or both? Like, I think that's not plausible.
I think they're ready for Bo to move on. I really do. I think they have other plans and maybe bring in a second baseman. They have some trade bait now, maybe. I still think they need a closer. I don't want Hoffman as the closer. I just don't. I think there's better closers out there, and they need to go get a better closer.
I think that they can go and get one. And I think that it's interesting too. Here's a wrinkle in the story here, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they signed him, all the different sports take outlets and different content creators were putting graphics up of the Jays rotation for next year and going like, do the Jays now have the best rotation in baseball? I don't know if it's the best, but it's top 3 unquestionably. Like, you'd still have to get the Dodgers just won the World Series and they did it off the back of their pitching. Yeah. However, American League, yes, I can definitively say that the Blue Jays on paper, which we know isn't worth much, they have the best rotation in the American League.
Oh, there's no doubt.
The graphics, though, that were being shared did not include a gentleman named Jose Barrios. And I think that they are going to end up trading him to somebody that needs to meet salary floor. And they don't have a salary floor in baseball, but I'm just talking about there are teams that are cheap out there that need to have a certain salary threshold to get competitive balance dollars. Sure. So Jose Barrios might be a Pittsburgh Pirate. You never know.
Yeah.
I think they will trade him and probably cover the rest.
We'll see. Salary. Maybe not. Who knows?
And get some assets back in some respect, and then package up other assets they have to improve the bullpen. Like,
is there room for Max Scherzer anymore?
Maybe. Like, if he wants to come back and be for the most part, I would say probably long relief guy, and then be a bullpen option for you in the playoffs again, potentially, depending on how he pitches. Because again, remember, heading into the playoff, like if everybody was healthy and Jose Barrios didn't have the meltdown season that he had, Max Scherzer, we wouldn't have seen him in the playoffs.
No,
he would not have been on the roster.
He wasn't on the roster for the ALDS.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like, they did run into some health trouble, right? So, there's a high likelihood if things work out differently, we don't even see him. I'm gonna probably go no. They could make something work, but it depends how hungry he is. Like, this guy's gonna turn 42 and clearly still has some dog in him. He always will. He's Max Scherzer. I just don't know, especially with Cease coming in now, what kind of role he really has.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You still have Lauer.
He wants to start, and he's not starting here.
Well, you still have Lauer, and
and they need Lauer probably for being a lefty. They need him to start some games. They can't go with 5-6 righties.
Yep. No, you're not. You're not wrong. All that to say, what an incredible signing! Like, what an incredible signing! I didn't even have this on my radar. I didn't think that they would dip into the starting pitching market like this. Yeah. He's really good, Clark.
No. I mean, I never heard of him coming to Toronto. I never heard that.
Okay.
That's what I meant. Yeah, I never heard.
Right. Well, I didn't either. Like, did anybody hear any whispering? Like, good job by Ross and Dylan's agent and everybody keeping this under wraps. I heard zero whispers. Is he a Boris guy?
He is, and they say that's one of the earliest Boris signings ever.
It might be Scott Boris guys do not sign in November.
Yeah, correct. He was
we're talking Boris post-winter meetings.
I know.
So it's really incredible. What clearly happened is the Jays ponied up the cash and said, "We'll give this to you right now. You're looking for 200. We'll give you 10. We'll give you 210."
I wonder if their strategy is let's get this guy, and then Bo will say, "Holy crap, I got to come back."
Bo or Kyle Tucker, somebody, maybe because you set up a starting rotation like that, and as an outfield player, and I would term Kyle Tucker an elite outfield defender. I know that his numbers this year were a little all over the place with the uncertainty of playing with the Cubs and not really knowing where he was going to end up. Those big years with the Astros, elite outfielder, and you see something like that, and you're like, I'd kind of like to play in that outfield and play next to a Gold Glove potential numerous times in his career guy in Dalton Varsho and feel really sheltered with how good that outfield can be defensively and look at this pitching staff. And Look, man, I don't know. Am I starting to become a Ross Atkins guy? Like,
sounds like it.
I don't know. Like, you can't sit here and
that was like, a good. No, you know what? Hey, last year we sat here criticizing them because they didn't seem to be doing anything we liked. Well, already, and we're not even out of November. Already, they've done something we both like. So let's hope it continues.
A legitimate landmark signing, like that's what I would call this. Like Dylan Cease. Cease, I would call him a top 10 pitcher in baseball.
And
when he's at his best.
Yeah. Well, good. And we talked about the amount of money this team made in the playoffs. And they better put it back into the team. And they're showing already that they are. So good.
At least
good
a chunk of it. Yeah. It's hey, I mean, again, like when you come off losing in a series final, a championship final in a sport, this is about as positive of a bounce back from that as you can have.
Mm-hmm.
Like we lost in the final, and now we're going and getting an uber superstar level pitcher. That's about as good of a result as you can have coming off a loss like that. Yeah. And it's got to keep up the doubling down. And again, Blue Jays media, your guys, if you want that for free, you can have it. It was internal improvement this year. Now it's hashtag double down. You can have that. Okay. Yep. You got to make sure that happens. But man, oh man, to roll out of bed yesterday and look at my phone and go, Dylan Cease, 210. Thank you very much, sir. Scott Boras doing well for himself. He always does. Incredible stuff, dude. Like, where were you when you found out? How'd you find out about it?
I don't know. Home. What time did it break? Just after 5? I don't know.
Yeah, like
maybe a little later.
Yeah, I think it was like a little after 6, like early evening.
No, I read about it and I saw the numbers and asked a few questions to friends and saw your text. Biggest signing in the history of the franchise is what Ryan Drury texted me.
It's and I want to clarify, obviously, it's the biggest free agent.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
It's the biggest free. Vladdy is the biggest
signing. No, but he doesn't count. No, because he already was on the team. Yeah, no, I get it.
Free agent sign, like they've never.
Springer was pretty big when he signed.
Who?
Springer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was a big deal. This is bigger.
Yeah.
I would argue this is bigger.
How did Roger?
How important pitching is? What did you say, buddy?
Roger Clemens. How did he come? Was he a free agent?
Did they trade for Roger?
No, I
Clemens?
think he was. I'd have to look. I thought he was a free agent, and believe me, that was. However, they got him. It was huge. I mean, he won a Cy Young the first year he played for the team. Like, he was unbelievable.
He was a freak. Okay, he was traded to the Jays.
Okay, that was a Gord Ash trade then.
So he signed a 4-year, $40 million deal in December 1996, $10 million a year. Like, that's what guys were getting back then, and it's just ballooned.
Who did they trade? Do you have it there?
Okay. So it says the Jays signed Clemens in free agency on December 13th, 1996.
Yeah. Okay.
He signed a 4-year deal. Okay, so then this is wrong. He wasn't traded to the Blue Jays.
Yeah, no, I thought he was a free agent.
You can't trust AI, brother. You can't do it.
Well,
and obviously
that was a huge signing too. Believe me.
Yeah,
dude, it was Roger Clemens.
Yeah, it's Roger Clemens. You're probably right. Yeah, I don't know why I had in my mind he was traded there. Because he was traded after the 98 season to the Yankees. My God, what a and I know that was controversial and he got himself in trouble. But yeah, I mean, it's Clemens, but this is right up there. This is
Roger
right up there, man.
Clemens was.
It's Roger Clemens.
Everyone had heard of Roger.
He's the Rocket.
Clemens. That's right.
He's a psychopath. Absolutely free. He should be in the Hall of Fame, right? Like. He should be in the Hall of Fame.
I misremember. I don't know.
I misremember. I think they got to put these guys. Barry Bonds, like baseball. What a weird sport. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole.
No, we're not going to go down that. Like, do they deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? If you just look at their stat.
It's just wonky that like the all-time one of the all-time strikeout leaders, numerous Cy Youngs, the all-time leader in hits, the all-time leader in home runs are not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. They're not there.
Yeah, I know.
It's weird.
Should they have
it's like Gretzky not being in the Hockey Hall of Fame?
Should they have?
It's like Gretzky not being in the Hockey Hall of Fame because he had an amphetamine in his chicken sandwich or something in 1992.
I don't think it was a mistake that these guys were on what they were on. I'm telling you right now.
No, I'm not defending it. I really agree. I know a lot of people staunchly are like they absolutely should never be in the Hall of Fame, and I understand your take. I do. I do feel like they should be in there and have some type of like asterisk. Set up a separate wing where it's like these guys put up unbelievable numbers. But there's a little bit of context. Yeah. I agree with that. It is.
So do you have sorry to change topics here. Do you have a golf game on Friday night?
Yes. Yeah. We'll see with this weather.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
We're recording this on Thursday, the 27th.
We got Leafs Caps Friday night.
Yeah. Leafs. Yeah. I have a storm. I'm scheduled to have a storm game. The Windsor Spitfires are supposed to be in town, and then Sunday you'll like this. Yeah, maybe you should come down to the Sleeman Center on Sunday because the Sudbury Wolves are in town. And I heard a dirty little rumor that a man named Joe Bowen.
Can't say it. My goodness,
I just heard a dirty little rumor. I don't know if I get you. I don't have that kind of pull. I'm just the play-by-play guy.
So you can get me a ducat.
I bet you I'd get you a ticket.
Yeah.
I bet you I'd get you a ticket, no problem.
Because, like,
I'm just saying.
When I open my wallet, the moths fly out. I can't find the bills. So,
I'm aware. Well, you had a pretty fun fall. You had a pretty fun fall.
I did. Yes, I did.
I still have the video evidence on my phone that you sent us from the dome.
They're the best videos ever. We did it, Drury.
They were very, very funny.
Good. They were,
because
the Leafs are on a 1-game winning streak and heading into wash.
We said that last week. What happened after that? I
didn't see a second of the Montreal game. I was out. I didn't see a second of it, to be honest.
I was worried about you. I'm glad you told me that because when I saw almost all the seconds of it, and I was.
Yeah, I heard they did not look good. But they also had a lot of injuries. Not to make excuses. I get it.
No. Hey,
but when you're missing your entire first line, that's tough.
I think they had like $36 million in the press box.
I love East Cowan right now. He looks like he's
the Cowboy.
Here, maybe just stay. Why do they call him the Cowboy?
Well, his last name's Cowan.
I get that.
He's a shooter.
Okay.
It started in London. The London guys, like Mike Stubbs and Greg Sloan.
I love it.
The Cowboy.
Yeah, I love it.
Just
wondered why. I didn't know if he.
Well, I'm a big nickname guy, and I always appreciated that. The Cowboy. It's good. It's good stuff. He's a shooter.
Good. Yeah,
he's a shooter, brother. Yeah, you got a good one in him, and he's flying out there, which is good to see, and he's only going to get better. And we'll see. Like, you got a bunch of guys back now. Matthews played the other night, still not looking great.
No, he's not.
Nye's back. He looked fine.
Yeah.
Joe Swall, unbelievable. Joe Swall's been their best player.
Well, he certainly was last game. There's no doubt. I'm interested to see who they play on Friday night against Wash. They got Wash Pitt back to back, so
I think you go Wall. You got to go Wall against Ovi because Ovi's hot. Ovi's hot.
Or do you just save Wall for Pittsburgh and get the
you go Wall. You go Wall Wash and you go Hill to be Pitt. That's what I would do. So I don't know. Let us know what you think. What would you do? Okay, you can interact with us. We're on social media at Instigating Pod on all your favorite social media apps.
How about the Raptors?
Oh, dude, the Raptors. We got to get Paul Jones.
The Brooklyn Knights. I was talking to Jonesy. He'll come
immediately.
On. We'll get him on.
We got to talk hoops because the Raptors, they are shredding it right now. It's Jurassic Park in full force, and we love it. We love that you watch this show on Rogers TV, of course, Friday nights in the Georgian Bay area before Owen Sound Attack Hockey in the London region and plenty of other places as well. Available on YouTube, all your favorite podcast apps. And like I said, follow us on social media at Instigating Pod. Thanks so much to Mark Hebscher, the legend himself, for jumping on the show tonight. Hebsy, ladies and gentlemen, go get the book. And we will be back next week with more Instigating with Clarkey and Drury.